Welcome back to the Shaman Stories Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jeremy Chembert, and today with me we have Cheryl Andrisani. She is an alignment and manifestation coach with True Cosmic. She's based in the Greater Toronto area, and she draws on Neville Goddard's teachings and years of personal study to help clients strengthen self-concept, identify limiting beliefs, and create inner lasting change and outer change. Her coaching combines a practical, results-oriented approach with spiritual insight, supporting people to align with their desires and to live with greater clarity, confidence, and purpose. Thanks for being here, Cheryl.
Thanks, Jeremy. It's great to be here.
Is there anything you want to add on to the intro? Maybe something that was missed or something you feel is more important to focus on?
Well, like this is the funny thing is I started this journey, wanting to manifest the life that I wanted to live. And what I wasn't expecting is that it would actually turn into a spiritual journey. And so basically, I help people change their lives by changing the arrangement of their minds and by changing the way that they see themselves,
Mhm.
right? I also help people move from just believing in God to actually living like they believe in Him. And so I started my company, Living in Joy, and back in 2018. And my coaching actually started with a company called True Cosmic Academy. And it all just happened by chance because I never expected to be a coach. But as I started being really bold and courageous and started sharing my own personal journey, that's when people resonated with me because they could see themselves in me. And so I just started sharing more and more about the principles that I was learning and integrating them into my life.
Mhm.
And then people just started reaching out and saying, "Hey, can you help me?" And I'm just like, at the time, I was a business owner. My husband and I had an e-commerce business. So really, that wasn't my main focus. I just wanted to help the world because I know exactly what it feels like to struggle and to believe that there's more to life. And just by using the principles that I learned in my marriage and in my business, I started seeing my own results. And those results actually helped strengthen my own belief within me. And it helped me to lean into faith a lot easier than I did when I didn't have these results.
Mhm.
But here's the thing is like we all have the results. We're just not looking at them as results, of what we've called for in our life. And so True Cosmic gave me an opportunity to actually do this for a living. And 3.5 or 3 years ago, so I started this journey back in 2020. And then people have seen my evolution. They've seen me transform my marriage. They've seen me go from a person that lives paycheck to paycheck to all of a sudden selling her e-commerce business for 7+ figures, which made me a millionaire.
Nice.
So all I want to do is help give people hope that it's all possible for every single one of us to help them understand who they truly are and how to use the gifts that we've been given to have a life experience that we all enjoy. So basically, that is what my mission here today is just to help people realize just how truly powerful they are by the choices that they make in life. So, yeah, that's all I really want to share because we all are worthy of it and we're all deserving of it and we all have access to it. So.
Nice. And yeah, I think what you were saying too with we're getting what we're asking for. It's just, are we asking for the right thing? I like to call it desire work. It's like, what is it that you're truly after? Is it really the money or is it the love and affection of somebody you didn't get when you were younger? Is it the
Mhm.
status? Is it the notoriety? Like, what is it that you're truly after? And that's really what you need to start focusing on. Don't worry about how you're going to get there and all the little steps. Just worry about the end result is
Yeah.
the way I've always looked at, manifesting and the desire that comes into it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was one thing that I was truly surprised at after doing the awareness work is I actually didn't even know what I wanted in life. I hadn't really defined it. Okay, people go with the general things. I want to feel love, or not even I want to feel love. I want to find the perfect man for me,
Mhm.
or I want to have $1 million, and it's like, why do we choose those things? Right? We don't even realize it. We hear somebody saying it and it sounds really good, but is that actually truly what we want? And how can we define it even further and understand why we want those things, right? And I've come to understand that the reason why I wanted those things weren't actually the reason why I wanted it. Like for me, I would say I want to become a millionaire, but it's like, why?
Mhm.
It's actually not the $1 million that I wanted. What I actually wanted was to feel free. I wanted to feel secure. I didn't want to go from struggling. I wanted that feeling that I was going to be okay. That's really why I wanted the $1 million. $1 million is something that I just picked out of the hat because I've heard it so much. And that's the dream that we've been designed to believe that we want. When really it's not. It really is about a feeling that we want and how we want to experience life, right? Even with my relationship, I've been married 31 years
Yes,
to a
congratulations.
man that I met in high school, and we have 3 kids together. And it was in my own marriage that I first realized, that I'm going to use this as my experiment, right? Because my husband and I went through the same things that most married couples go through. A lot of the tension starts with money,
Mhm.
right? And, and parenting, and like there's so much to us, but I wanted to, that was one of the main things that I wanted. I wanted to feel good in my marriage. And at the time, I wasn't feeling good. And I wanted to feel like a better mother. And at the time, I felt so much guilt and shame and felt like I was failing and felt confused and, like thinking that I didn't have it right. And so those are the things that I really wanted to improve, as well as finances. So I just took the principles that I learned. And this is the part that most people miss is we spend so much time learning and intaking information, right? And it gives us that feeling, yeah, that we're accomplishing things. But unless you change as a person, unless you integrate those things and actually live it and test it and try it, there's no way that your life is going to change.
Mhm.
And so at the beginning, I was learning about law of attraction, and it was great at the time. It made me feel good. But what I realized is that I was doing a lot of spiritual bypassing,
Mhm.
right? Not getting down to the root of the issue. I was basically just suppressing it, covering it up with, positive affirmations and stuff. But then I realized, why isn't my life changing? Because I studied law of attraction for 11 years. And I'm like, why? Like, I would manifest some really great things, but why was I still feeling the same way underneath? And that's when I discovered the teachings of Neville Goddard back in 2020. And I said, that's it. I'm putting, no matter whether or not I believe what he's teaching, I'm going to put it to the test. And,
Mhm.
and what I really loved about Neville was that he taught based on scripture. And after learning what he taught, I realized that I didn't understand scripture as much as I thought I did. And I certainly wasn't applying it and integrating it into my life. So, 2019 was a year of grief for me. I lost 3 really important people in my life. My best friend, my father-in-law, and an aunt who I considered like a mother. And in 2020, I went to this financial seminar, and this guy said most millionaires are made in times of crisis than at any other time. And out of the whole entire weekend, that statement really hit me. That's what I walked away from an entire weekend. And then the pandemic hit in March. I had an online e-commerce business. And of course, the fear of me, like my livelihood was dependent on that income that I made from our business. And after hearing, most millionaires are made in times of crisis, I'm like, well, this is God giving me the opportunity to put this into practice. And really, my back was against the wall. I had no other choice, but like that was the only thing that I felt like I had the choice to do. So I saw it as an opportunity, and I totally transformed my life because in 3.5 years of doing that work, um, we took our sales from generally about $500,000 in sales a year, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't by the time you take off all the expenses, right? And
Ta-
fees. It was
Taxes,
enough to make
fees,
us.
all that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Everything. Like
Shipping
it sounds
costs.
like so much. And a lot of people online are promoting that, but that's very different than the amount of money that you take home that ends up in your bank account, right? For you to use. But in 3.5 years, my husband and I took our $500,000 a year company to $10 million over a 3.5 year period. So there was no doubt in my mind that these principles work, and it started off as the teachings of Neville Goddard, but then it ended up as the teachings and the principles that are laid out for us in the Bible.
So, can you explain who Neville Goddard is and maybe some of those basic principles or basic teachings? You mentioned doing the law of attraction and how
Hmm.
that was working, but it wasn't enough. I'll put it that
Right,
way. And then
right.
when you found Neville's work, everything
Hmm.
exploded for you. So I'm just, if you can, like maybe a short backstory on who Neville is, maybe a little bit about the
Yeah,
teachings, and then we can kind of compare the two.
yeah, for sure. So Neville Goddard was a mystic that taught about the law of assumption. That's basically what he's known for, the law of assumption, which is that you assume that you already are who you want to be.
Hmm.
Okay, he taught that everything is consciousness. So he taught the law of consciousness. And he basically, so he was a mystic in like he was teaching, I believe, from the 1930s to when he died in 1972. So actually, the year that he died, a month later, is the year that I was born. So it's interesting learning from, all of his works, but just through books, not even witnessing him, right? But yeah, so that's the part that is really um I call it fun because he said he takes the principles, like for instance, like be as little children. You hear that in the Bible, to be as little children, right? And it's like, okay, what does that mean? Like I've heard it. Like I grew up Catholic. I was, born into a Catholic home. But of course, when you're a child, you're just bored in church. You're not even really paying attention. Like, this is boring. Do we have to go to church again? Right? But so I've grown up hearing these scriptures, and now after Neville's work is to be as little children, is to trust in the source, which is, in the Bible, is God. God is your source. We were created in the image and likeness of God. And to be as little children, what does that actually mean? It means to, number one, children are totally wholly dependent on their parents, right? And so it's to be wholly dependent on our Father. Not just that, children do an amazing job of imagining, right? They put their imaginations to work and they don't ever try to figure out how am I going to do this? Like I could be anything I want it to be. I can be a princess if I want to by the use of my imagination. But we lose that as we grow older. We think that imagination is something that's child's play, but meanwhile, it's a faculty that we've been given that is definitely underutilized, but in at the same sense, we're utilizing it every day. We have to just point ourselves in the direction of where we want to go.
Mm.
And most of us are pointing putting our attention on where we don't want to go or on what currently is. And when you understand the way God's law works and the law of consciousness is that you have to think bigger than your current circumstances, right? And most people aren't doing that. Most people can't see the vision, or if they can see the vision, they can't hold it for very long because they're just pulled back so much. So Neville asked us to invest our thoughts, invest where we place our consciousness, invest in being the version of ourselves that we want to be instead of spending it on things that aren't in alignment with who we truly are,
Mm.
right? I had a very difficult time believing that he teaches I am that we are God, right? And to a certain extent, I mean, I'm still trying to get a grasp on that because I don't believe that I'm on the same level as God. But I do believe that, in the scripture, in the very first chapter of the Bible, it says that we are made in the image and likeness of God. So I had to really learn how to integrate that human side of myself and to believe that God dwells in me,
Mm.
to believe that I have the power of God within me, right? And that definitely takes practice. But, Neville taught certain principles, like just being aware of where we currently are, like who we're currently being, the identity that we currently believe that we are, being truly aware of that. And then taking that awareness and really defining where you want to be and who do you want to be in life, right? What do you want to experience? And then detaching and then living, detaching from anything that says that you can't be who you want to be. I live with the principle that all things are possible to God. All things are possible to those who believe. I also live by the principle that God dwells in me, so that as a human being, I am co-creating with this source greater than me. And this is why I never need to figure out the how, because God's got that covered.
Mm.
And most of us always try to figure out the how part, which often will leave us anxious, confused, drained, overthinking, stressed, like all of those low level emotions. But to believe, like most people live their lives as if they're doing life alone. And that is impossible. It's exhausting. But when you realize, if you can convince yourself to believe that, yeah, I am here, but I am co-creating in this dimension with a power that's greater than me, then I tested it and I'm like, let me see if this works. And what Neville taught was that even when you try to disprove that it works, you're going to disprove it. You're always going to show yourself that it actually does work. So you're proving it in the disproving it. And I thought, well, then what do I have to lose? Let me just try this. And it worked because I am now living a life that I once dreamed of. And all that was required of me was to just become aware of the things that were slowing down the process of me experiencing that life that I wanted to live and dismissing anything that didn't match who I wanted to be. And I'm like, okay, if that's the only thing that I have to do, then this should be easy, right? But it's not because we're human. We deal with a lot of heavy emotions, a lot of great emotions, exciting emotions, But I found myself, for the most part, dealing with a lot of emotions that I didn't like and that I didn't want to experience. And I wanted to get away from it. You know what I mean? But the part that we have to understand is that we need to take 100% accountability for our choices
Yeah.
and stop putting, our fate in something outside of us and realize that it's all within us. And so I just encourage people to test it. And I just show people how I do it, how I've applied it in my own life. And I believe that we all experience the same feelings, just through different circumstances, right? And so if you can take, what scripture teaches, what Neville teaches, there's a whole bunch of other really great teachers that teach this. And they're just applying it in a way that works for them in their lives. There is no one size fits
Mm.
all. And like you said earlier, that you're just going to learn from different people and take what resonates with you. And I think that having faith in the process really allows us to experience life in a much better way. Like our attitude of mind is so important. And I realized that I did not have a great attitude of mind. Like I thought I was a great person. Okay. But when I really became aware and really started to notice things about myself, really, what's the word? Um, observe observe myself from a neutral point of view, without judgment, without criticism, just to be really curious about how I was showing up and how I was reacting to the life experience that I was living. And when we understand how we react to things, when we become truly aware of it, it's going to reveal so many limited beliefs and limiting assumptions that we've been living by, but have been unconscious to, right? So I just started observing myself. And I'm like, oh, that's really curious
Mhm.
that I believe that. And it's that belief that is actually causing me to feel this way, right? So can I now get to the root of the actual problem? And instead of just healing circumstances, instead of just healing the effects, I had to heal and recognize the beliefs that I was actually operating from.
Mhm.
And that's not an easy process, right?
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things for a lot of people for sure.
Yeah. And it's the part where people give up.
Mhm.
They have this hope, they'll listen to this podcast, they'll listen to your podcast and get inspiration from it. But when things go wrong, that inspiration fades. And that's when people give up. And another principle that Neville taught was persistence, right? But it's not persistence through effort. It's persistence with understanding where you currently are and then reframing it so that it's in alignment with who you defined that you want it to be. And so it's just, okay, I see myself, I'm pissed off right now, I'm not happy, I'm angry, or, I feel really defeated right now. And then how can I use the present circumstance that I've been given to help me really pinpoint what I believe, and then ask myself, do I want to continue believing that? Because I already see evidence of this belief brings me this result. So, how can I now surrender that belief and then reframe it, reframe my current circumstance so that it helps me evolve?
Mhm.
I mean, I honestly believe that that's what we came here for, is to evolve, to experience life. Like God experiences life through us. right? And this is why I don't believe that, the system that we're currently living in, where it wants to try to put everybody in the same box. It wants to shape people into a way that's normalized,
Mhm.
but we were never meant to be normalized in this box. We all came here to experience life authentically, right? And I'm one of those believers that believes that we made the decision prior to coming here and incarnating here about what we were going to experience, right? And what Neville taught was that God became man so that man can become God. And it's just like the story of Jesus is God had to become man so that there was somebody in human form that could show us the way to becoming who we truly are. And it's all a journey, it's all about experience and using our experiences to keep expanding, to keep remembering who we are in truth, that God does dwell in us, that we are one with this power,
Mhm.
right? This energy. And no matter how you spin it, like science is now catching up to the word of God, which is great for the logical thinkers, right? It's great for the people that want to see proof, that can't just believe in the woo-woo stuff,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I personally had a very tumultuous relationship with God. I grew up in the Catholic household, but then as a teenager, I'm like, things happen and you experience trauma, and everybody experiences trauma in their lives. Just it's all just to certain degrees, different
Mhm.
degrees of trauma, but we all experience trauma. And for me, which is with a lot of other people, like a lot of the people I work with have this same experience where instead of turning to God in our times of trauma, we turn away from God and we say, well, if God is so good, then why would he put me through this experience? Right. And so I realized that for a long time, I've been trying to do this life alone in all of my adult life. And then it came to the point, because of Neville Goddard's teachings, because he used scripture in his teachings. Mind you, he teaches through the lens of consciousness.
Mhm.
Okay. But it really helped me understand the Bible a lot more. So it's funny for me how I went from turning away from God to now turning to God, to developing a relationship with God. Because really, it's great to manifest all these wonderful things while we're here on earth. I don't believe that we were here to predominantly suffer. I do believe that suffering is part of the experience.
Mhm.
And I do believe that we have the power of God within us to navigate through any experience that we go through.
Yeah,
And
I feel without some suffering, without some trauma, there's no growth. There's no reason to get
exactly,
better. There's no reason to do something different and more. You just become complacent. Now, that doesn't mean I recommend everybody have the most horrific trauma ever. It's just through trauma, we have growth.
yeah,
Even my own journey, I never would have got here unless I went through what I went through. And that's just where we're at. So
yeah,
it's not ignoring the past, but it's, kind of what you've been saying is reflecting on it, learning from it, and growing from it, and then trying to make yourself better.
yeah, for sure. I do believe that that's what this journey is about. But I believe that there's more to just being here
Hmm.
now. I believe that what we do here on Earth in this 3D realm also sets us up for when we leave these physical bodies, right? What it sets us up for what we will experience in the rest of eternity, essentially, right? So to me, the life is just the practice ground for something bigger than this worldly experience, right? And it's just helping to refine us, right? And the trauma that I've gone through, as much as it was, not ideal, I certainly wouldn't consciously choose any of that for myself. But how can you use it in a
Mm.
way that helps you become more empathetic and compassionate, right? For me, using my trauma in a way, like I didn't want my trauma to define me, but yet it has defined me
Mm.
because I can take who I was when I was experiencing that and mold it and shape it into the being that I am today, which is very much what who I believe is forgiving, loving, empathetic, compassionate. For me, it's not just, yeah, yes, I'm a coach and I do it, you know, for the betterment of people. As a byproduct of doing that, I also receive monetary gifts. But I do believe in the unlimitedness of us, that we are abundant, right? We're abundant in nature. So I used to believe, oh, I was one of those people that believed, oh, you shouldn't be charging for, spiritual education. And I'm like, well, you're not, I'm not charging you for the spiritual education. I'm charging you for, you know, sharing my experience and how can I help you based on my experience, allow it to for you to integrate it in your life. And I do take time. It takes time and it takes space, right? But it's not the reason why I do it. I believe that I'm abundant in so many ways and an unlimited amount of ways, and money is just one of those things.
Yeah.
But I think that my trauma is actually what makes me a better coach.
It becomes your medicine.
Really
You have
does.
been through it. Now you can help others get through it as well. It
Yeah,
becomes the thing that you can offer. And that's what I tell people a lot of times too, is like looking for a therapist, a counselor, energy worker, manifestation coach. I mean, just throw whatever you were looking for out there. It's find
yeah,
someone who's been through what you're going through, or at least close enough to it, because that's
yeah,
the person who truly understands. They're not just reading a book, they're not just taking a weekend seminar to get a certificate. They have been through the trenches, they have been through the suck, and they've come out on the other side, and they can now help you do the same.
exactly. And there's so many people looking for this transformation, right? Even when I started with the True Cosmic Academy, they had a Facebook group called Neville Goddard Mystic Teachings. And I joined that group a year after I had already been applying it. So that was back in 2021. And I was at the beginning, I was so shy. I was like one of those lurkers that was just going through reading everybody else's posts, right? And there was one time I just felt compelled to share in a comment on somebody's post. And one of the moderators in that group said, this should be a standalone post on its own, not just a comment where people can actually see it instead of
Mm.
it being hidden. And I was just like, I'm new to this, like I was a very private person. I didn't really want to share what, you know, I wanted to share the teachings, but I didn't necessarily want to share how, like the circumstances
Mm.
around it, all the details, because the details are messy, and oftentimes it reveals a lot about who you are. And I was afraid of the judgment, and I was afraid of people criticizing me. That's one of the biggest fears in life, is not being accepted by people, right? But, I she encouraged me to share, which I did, and it got a lot of good feedback. The feedback, it was a good indication. Like, it made me feel more comfortable. So I started sharing more and more just on how I was applying it. And whether or not you believe my story, it didn't matter to me because that was my story,
Yeah.
right? And I welcomed anybody that was willing to share with me, how I could have done it, in what I wasn't closed-minded. I was very much open-minded. And if people were willing to share with me how they applied it, well, then maybe I could try it too, right? So I was willing and I was open. That was, I think, one of the qualities that really helped me through this life experience. But that's how the journey all started. Somebody encouraged me to share, and a lot of people saw themselves in my story, and I just kept sharing, like in different aspects of my life, sharing from my marriage,
Mhm.
from my business, through finances, through parenting, through relationships, friendships, spiritual health. I mean, I went through breast cancer in 2023. And, how did I apply it to that? Right. So, I mean, and then True Cosmic, more people started asking me for help, and True Cosmic actually gave me the opportunity to help people on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
It's actually how this opportunity was birthed, right? But I also started believing that, opportunities always come my way. And I don't believe in making life hard. I believe in making life easy and simple for myself and effortless. And when I start leaning into those types of beliefs, well, if I believe it, then that will somehow show up in my life experience, right? So it all starts with belief that, yeah, it is possible for you. And I just help people change the arrangement of their minds. How have you
And,
been thinking?
and I have a question on the belief part. So
Yeah.
you talked earlier about, being religious when you were younger, reading the Bible. You kind of stepped away from it. And then Neville's teachings deal a lot with the scripture and stuff too. I'm curious if there was ever like an internal conflict either within yourself or maybe even the family or larger group dynamic that you might have around you because in the Bible itself it talks about like no divination, no mystics, no magic of it.
Yes.
I'm summarizing and shortening that phrase,
Yeah.
but no kind of other options other than God.
No idols, false
Yeah.
idols.
And was there any like him using the scripture, calling himself a mystic? Did you have any conflict there, or maybe with other family members, or I don't know if you were going to church at that point. How did they feel about you using the word manifestation?
Well, I mean, manifestation is such a hot topic
Yeah.
in recent years, right? So it's kind of normalized now. Um, a lot of people that have known me in my adult life don't see me as a person that believes in God, because for a long time I didn't. I tried to avoid the word God because I knew that it would push people away, right? Because I know that that was me. Anytime somebody is preaching God, I'm just like, oh my, like, oh brother, not this, unfollow, but putting it to the test, so I I did have conflict about the way Neville taught that, saying that we are God. I don't necessarily believe it. 100%. I would never call myself God because to me that feels blasphemous.
Hmm.
But it's just like everybody sharing what they believe. And I believe that we have access to an infinite possibility of assumptions, infinite possibilities of everything that exists in the world, stuff that we can see, stuff that we haven't seen yet. It's a possibility. I believe in infinite possibilities. And one of the things that Neville taught in his lecture, The Pruning Shears of Revision, is basically that there's no power outside of us. Like for a long time, my God was money because I thought about money so much. How do I make it? How do I get it? Right? And I was idolizing money without even realizing I was idolizing that. But after going through the journey of realizing that money was just a byproduct of understanding the power that lived within me, that the kingdom of heaven is within me. And I just gave myself the opportunity to lean into that belief. Okay, what if that's actually true?
Mhm.
Right? So it was just opening my mind, because we're so into our egos and we believe that every story that we tell is truth, right? And I just started saying, okay, well, what if that isn't true? And then after doing the work, I started to realize that a lot of the, not a lot, but most of the assumptions that I was believing weren't even my own. Assumptions that came from, our childhood, our parents, our teachers, our culture, what we were watching on TV, television, social media now, right? Um, so much of who we believe that we are was shaped by other people's identities and other people's beliefs. So I had to start asking myself, is that belief actually true? Where did I learn that from? And, to basically pray for myself and for the people that were teaching me that didn't know themselves, you know? So it's a journey. I'm still learning to this day. I don't claim to know everything, nor will I ever know everything until
Yeah.
I leave this earth experience. But I'm willing to give myself the opportunity to step out of my comfort zone and try things. Okay, you know what? The thing that really helped me was keeping top of mind, and this may make people feel uncomfortable, but we're going to die. We're all going to die. You know what I mean? So to me, it's not about, um, you can't take anything. You cannot take anything with you. Materialistically, you can't take any of that with you, but how I experienced this life experience all of a sudden became more important to me
Mhm.
than the material things. And I started leaning into, okay, what if I am a child of God? What if I start believing that this is actually true for me? And just the things that I've been able to experience. Like the two biggest things was finances, obviously, becoming a millionaire, because I honestly believe people like me don't become millionaires, right? And then it actually happened, so I can now testify
Mhm.
through that lens. But more importantly is my relationship with my husband, right? Because I made a promise to him back when we were 21 years old that it was forever. And I got to a point, well, we both did, where it's like, is this actually working? Is this actually what we want? But, I had to really define if this is what I actually wanted. I had to get clear on that. And that way I had like a North Star. I had a goal to
Yeah.
go for, and that would be the lens through which I made all of my decisions, right? And so I'm like, yeah, I'm been blessed to be given the opportunity to be married to him and to be a mother to our three children. Like he blessed me with three kids. That was really important to me. And when I first got married at 21, I envisioned this really wonderful life, but what I was living didn't match that. right? And I kind of lost sight of that through, through life. Just through life, you lose sight of your goals, and what you want for yourself. So it was about returning to that, defining that, what did I want to experience in my life? And could I be brave and courageous enough to actually believe that that was possible for me?
Yeah. No, and it makes sense too. I was just always curious because I know sometimes people are raised religious and then they find things like Reiki or other energy work or
Yeah,
shamanism, and it becomes a conflict, even though I know Catholic priests who have gone through shamanic training. It doesn't take away your belief system or your religion. If anything, these types of works enhances it, is what it sounds like
yeah,
it's done for you. And I
right.
think that's a great thing. I'm all for people believing in whatever religion you call it, God, I call it
Yeah,
source. To me, it's the
yeah,
same thing. It's just a
yes,
different approach of getting there. And we're all part of God. We're all part of source, whether we're a
yeah,
child of God or a part of the spark that was given to us. And
right.
so, yeah, maybe we're not saying, we are God, but we're a demigod to some extent, right?
Yes,
We're part
we're
God.
one. Mhm. Yeah, yes. And I do believe that. I believe Neville taught I and my father are one, but my
Mhm.
father is greater than I, right? Um, the thing that I really want people to understand, which has helped me, okay, is that I believe that we are here to understand who we are, and it comes through revelations, right? Through our life experiences. I think that for me, I was stuck in a lot of the processes, right? How do I get to where I want to be, who I want to understand myself to be? And yeah, there's unlimited pathways of getting to the same end goal,
Yep.
right? Whether or not that's through reading books or taking courses or Reiki or tarot or astrology, whatever. Those are just all pathways to get us to where we want to go. A lot of people are stuck in the processes. And I think that the number one problem with us humans is that the thing that keeps us apart, essentially, from understanding who we truly are all the assumptions that we believe about ourselves
It's
that
stories we
keep us
create.
apart. Yeah. Yeah. So, like we're all on this healing journey, but we don't understand that we already are perfectly whole and complete already. And it's just these assumptions that we believe that keep us apart from that. So for me, it's always about releasing resistance. How
Mhm.
can I release this resistance and just be in the accepting mode of what is my birthright? Right? This is what God actually wants us to experience, right? But it's a combination of, things that we don't like and things that we do like. We live in this world of duality, right? And what I found was that every time I feel like I'm trying to improve myself, I will always be met with the opposite of that. And how can I, through the opposite of it, hold to the belief that I am who I say that I am, right? So I don't believe God tests us, but I do believe that it's a calling for us to prove to ourselves that, yeah, I am who I say that I am.
And with that, you've been doing all this work, you've, helped your marriage, you sold the business, you have abundance in money and purpose. Are your
Mhm.
children or husband also doing this work? Or
Well,
is it kind
that's
of
a
like
fun.
that's mom's thing?
That's a mom's thing, honestly. Of course, we want everybody
Mhm.
around us to believe the way that we believe. And I think that that's one of the things that has helped me master myself is having a bunch of non-believers around me. My husband, he believes it to a certain extent, not to the extent that I believe it,
Yeah.
but he does have good good ethics, like a great code of ethics, and belief systems, he doesn't believe. Like he would make fun of me at the beginning saying, "Don't drink the juice." You know what I mean? He's like, "You are like, are you joining a cult or?" So but he's very funny. He does it in a way that teases me, so it's not like confrontational. But that has really helped me to really refine myself and master myself because I've had to do it around non-believers. Even my daughter refuses that I talk anything about this stuff with her. She's a nurse and she believes in the science part. Give me proof. I want to see it to believe it, where much of this journey is about believing it before you see it. It's by walking by faith and not by sight necessarily, right?
Yeah, and I think that's always a hard part for a lot of practitioners, people who do this kind of stuff. It's they want to share, they want to share, they want to share and teach everybody, and
Yeah,
then they don't react in the way that you're hoping for or expecting. And then
yeah,
I see a lot of times it shuts them down, and then they just kind of get isolated or they stop doing it.
yeah,
So it's an important lesson that you're learning of. I'm just going to push through. I'm going to do my thing. They're living their journey. I'm
yeah,
doing mine. We're not hurting each other, and it's all good. Like that's how
yeah,
it should be. But a lot of people try to fix those around them right away when they learn something new that worked for them, and then they
yeah,
get frustrated and angry that why won't they just listen to me? They would have everything they want if they would just read this
yeah.
book by Neville.
Yes, exactly. Well, one of the things that really highlighted that to me was I wanted to be unconditionally loved, unconditionally supported. Okay, that was one of my desires, which I wasn't feeling that way um, during certain points of our marriage. But what I realized was that I myself wasn't being unconditionally loving or unconditionally supporting my husband, right? I wasn't allowing him to be who he was, who he believed that he was, right? I wanted to change him. And then I kind of just it was like a revelation to me. Like, I'm wanting this out of him, but I'm not even being that myself. I wasn't unconditionally loving him. I wanted to change him, right? Just to make my life easier. But it actually helps you to master yourself that much faster, right? Because you have to go into the silence. You have to really take the time to contemplate, why is this showing up in my reality? Because something within me believes he is the way that he is. And if I wanted to change him, then I got to change myself first. I had to change what I believed about him. And I'll tell you, recognizing that I was not believing the best out of my husband was a hard thing to accept about myself. But it's in the awareness of this that we give ourselves the opportunity to change ourselves. And when we realize that the world is just a mirror for who we believe within, well, all of a sudden, the circumstances that you're experiencing in life is not there to harm you, but it's actually there to help you and to help reveal who you've chosen to be in consciousness, whether consciously or unconsciously. It's there to show you and to help you and to give you data about yourself. So when I started operating through that lens, then life started, not to become so or as hard, right? Because now I'm being, that was another way that I was being supported. Here's who you believe that you are. Is this who you want to continue believing? This is who you believe your husband is, because he has no choice but to show up in my reality based on who I believe that he is. This is the way he shows up. Is this what you want to continue believing? And one of the scriptures, or the principles in the Bible is that we need to renew our minds, right? And that's one of the philosophies that um, is really important in the way that I teach and in the way that I mentor people, is that can you give yourself the opportunity to renew your mind, to instead of living with this ceiling, this glass ceiling that has been self-imposed by me, can I now choose to believe that there is no ceiling,
Mm.
that you do have infinite possibilities available to you, that your word is creative, that you can use, like it says in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. It's like, how do I use the gift of mind and speech to start creating a life that I actually love, right? So, no, you do not. So that was a long answer, but the short answer is you do not need anybody.
Mhm.
Anybody, everybody else is just a reflection of you. You always bring the focus back to you and who you believe that you are, what you believe that you're worthy of, and really noticing the concepts that you believe about myself, about other people,
Mm.
about the way the world works. Take those concepts that you believe and ask yourself truly, do you want to believe that?
Yes.
Because there are other options available to you, but you need to start thinking in alignment with them. You need to renew your mind to start thinking in alignment with those beliefs instead. So, I mean,
Yeah, they always say, whatever bothers you in somebody else is something you got to look at internally because
oh
there's a
yeah.
reason for it showing up, whether you
Yeah,
want to admit it or not.
yeah, yeah. And the painful thing is admitting it. It's easy to suppress it. That's a thing. It's easy to suppress it. Like in the summer, when everything was growing here back in April, I there was this bush tree thing in my garden, and it had a disease in it. Every year I saw, the holes in the leaves. Something was eating at it, even though it wasn't like I couldn't see what was eating at the tree, right? So I just cut it down at the stump, and then the next year it grew back. And it feels like it's grown back even more powerfully than it was growing before. And that's, like it's these experiences that show you that if you want to truly be rid of an assumption or a belief, you got to get to the root of it.
Mhm.
You can't just cover it up, just chop it down and then put something on top of it that, will make you feel better in the moment. You really got to be truthful and get down to the root, because whatever the root is what's going to manifest in your life, right? You plant an apple seed, you get an apple tree. Plant an orange seed, you get an orange tree. Like the root is where we need to go. And that was the missing piece for me when I found the law of assumption. What is the root of what I truly believe?
Nice. And let's see, just looking at the time.
Mhm.
With that, is there any like parting advice you want to give people? I know this whole, episode's been a lot of advice, but is there, I
Yeah.
guess, one spot where somebody can start today, something that they can do on their own, something where they can start seeing some movement maybe in their life or their own manifestation? Like, is there something someone can start with?
Yeah, I think that honestly, this whole journey is about understanding who you are and getting to truly know yourself. Because we all think that we're great people, but when you really start paying attention, there's a lot of assumptions that we're living by that we truly don't want to live by.
Hmm.
That doesn't make us feel good. That doesn't make us feel empowered, A lot of the assumptions make us feel contracted, they make us feel small. And that's not who we truly are. So, for me, my greatest piece of advice is to just become aware of who you're being and then asking yourself, do I want to continue believing this? So, if you can start there, then I think that it will always lead us to greater expansion. And everybody's path is different, and I've learned not to judge
Mhm.
people. But trust me, I still judge all the time, but it's becoming aware of those judgments that and sitting with them,
Mhm.
you know. So yeah, start with awareness because it that's where it all starts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good part.
Mhm.
Where can people find you if they want to work with you? And I'll put all the links and stuff in the show notes as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. You can find me. I am a coach and mentor with the True Cosmic Academy. I do coaching through them one-on-one, but I also do group coaching. I have um, two programs with them. One of them is called Heaven on Earth, which is how can we blend the divine mind with our spiritual selves and operate in this 3D realm with the spiritual mind. I also have a self-concept course with them called Design and Refine. And that's a lot of self-concept work. Who do you believe that you are versus who do you want to be? And so that's really important too. I also have my own company that I founded, which is called Living in Joy, and you can reach out to me there. And I'm also predominantly on Facebook, and I am also on Instagram. On Facebook, it's Cheryl Carry on Andrisani, and on on Instagram, it's living underscore in underscore joy. So living in joy. Yeah.
Perfect. Just making notes of that.
Mhm.
All right. I really appreciate your time. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, I hope
Thank
people reach out to you and take a look. And I will say too, on the True Cosmic site, I went on there and looked around. They do offer like some free ebook downloads and stuff, so you can kind of dive into Neville's work a little bit more if you just want to kind of test the waters with it. I thought that was really cool that that was an option.
Oh yeah, they have a whole Neville library there, which is free to everyone. And this goes more to show that, even though they're a company, they're there for the greater good of humanity, to help us all discover how truly powerful we are. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Perfect. I appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if something our guests shared resonated with you, connect out to them. That's what these stories are here for. And if you're looking for deeper healing or support, you can always find me at pnwshamanichealing.com. See you in the next episode.